All right, hi class. So we're going to try and do some video lessons to make up for the fact that we cannot meet face to face. And today we're going to talk about parallel construction. So one of the things that we spoke about in class, and these words that you've heard again and again, are these two words: cohesion and coherence. Right? So cohesion is when the whole unit appears to be one piece and it doesn't look like it's been broken into several pieces. And coherence is basically the logical flow of ideas, right? So where all ideas are logically linked. Now, one of the main factors when it comes to writing academically is that this coherence comes out only when your writing is parallel. And a lot of times people don't realize that what they're writing is actually not parallel construction. Okay, so we are going to see what parallelism is and what faulty parallelism is, which is incorrect parallel structures that people often use when they write in academic English. So to understand this parallelism, it's basically very simple. It's essentially, we know our parts of speech, right? We know parts of speech: nouns, verbs, adjectives. Right? So these are our parts of speech: nouns, verbs, adjectives, and so on. Now, these are the main ones, right? These are the main ones that we use a lot of times. Of course, it could be any part of speech. But the whole idea is that if you're ever making a construction where it's where you're using either conjunctions, words like and, but, or, etc. Right? For example, you make a construction like either you are late or I am early. Right? So this is an example of where a sentence where you've used an either or construction. Right? Now, what essentially these conjunctions are doing are they're joining two elements. Now, one thing that we need to keep in mind is that when you're joining two elements, which is you are late and I am early, they have to be similar or parallel in construction. So here, if you look at you, it's a pronoun, are, it's a verb, and late is an adjective, right? So again here, pronoun, verb, adjective. So this is an example of a parallel construction, right? So if we write like this, that is good. But if we don't, then there are certain errors that could creep into writing, and it's one of the most common errors that are noticed that are noticed by editors across various magazines and editorials, etc. Because this is one of even the good writers, people who are comfortable writing in English, often make errors when it comes to parallel construction. Okay, so very simply put, it's a way to connect different ideas, and when you do that, you have to use either the same part of speech or similar kinds of sentences. So let's take a few examples of incorrect constructions so that we can understand where people go wrong or how people go wrong. Okay. Right, so let's look at this example. So it says this paper will discuss, there are three elements that this paper is going to discuss, right? The first one is no child left behind. So that's a theme, no child left behind. Then you have how to teach effectively and instructing with multimedia aids. Okay. Now, on the surface of this, it may look like there's nothing wrong with this, right? No child left behind, how to teach effectively, and interesting multimedia aids. There are three things that are being discussed in this paper. So what could be wrong in this? So think about that. While I flip the board, I'm going to give you the correct way of forming this sentence. So this paper will address no child left behind benchmarks, okay? Effective teaching strategies and multimedia instructional aids. So now if you look at this, The word benchmarks, strategies, and aids, all of them are nouns. Okay? And everything else in the sentence is describing the noun. So, what kind of benchmark? What benchmark are we talking about? No child left behind benchmark. What strategies are we talking about? Effective teaching strategies. What aids are we talking about? Multimedia instructional aids, right? So, this is a parallel construction. Now, if we go back to the previous construction that we looked at, we see that here we have no child left behind, right? So this is just a slogan, no child left behind. So there's no noun here, which is fine. But now you look at the second one, how to teach effectively. To teach effectively. Now this is this kind of construction, to do something, to run, to play, we discussed in one of the previous classes, is called an infinitive, right? We don't need to know this, but it's one kind of sentence construction. Now if you look at the third one, instructing with multimedia aids, right? Now instructing, now this is a gerund. So you have one part of the sentence which is just a caption, then the second part which is an infinitive sentence, and the third part which is a gerund. So this is not parallel. So this is what is incorrect. So this is considered to be bad writing when it comes to formal writing, academic writing, research writing. And if you flip this again, if you look at this kind of construction where everything is similar to each other, no child left behind, benchmarks, effective teaching strategies, and multimedia instructional aids. So this is an example of parallel construction. So we're going to look at a couple of more examples like this so that you would understand what we're talking about. So here's another example. The students were unprepared, poorly behaved, and disrupted the class. So look at this for a moment here now. So unprepared, so that's an adjective here, right? Poorly behaved, again, it's an adjective. And disrupted the class, what is this? They did something. Here they were something, and here they did something. So this is a verb. So this is an example of an unparalleled construction or a non-parallel construction. So it's not considered to be good academic writing. Yeah. So in this case, what is the easiest way? Now sometimes there are many ways to fix sentences like these, but there are some ways that are easier, with fewer fixes involved. So the easiest way to fix this would be to convert this. So both of these are adjectives. So we want to change this to an adjective as well. So instead of disrupted the class, what can we use instead? We can use disruptive. Yeah. So if you say disruptive, now look at this. The students were underprepared or unprepared, poorly behaved, and disruptive. Right. So there are three adjectives now, and this makes it parallel. All right. So here's another example. Emma's research highlights two things now. One is the importance. So Emma's research, we're talking about Emma's research, and the parallel construction starts from here, okay? So one, it highlights the importance of cell membrane. So it does something with respect to something, right? So it highlights the importance of cell membrane and helps in improving drug uptake in the cell, okay? Now, alright, so it highlights something and then it helps in improving something, right? So, although they're both verbs, there is one way to make it slightly more parallel, and the whole effort, the objective of academic writing is to keep things as parallel as possible. Sometimes absolute parallelism is not possible, but we should still try to make it as parallel as we can, okay? So here what we can do is, because here there is only one verb, highlights, but here we are saying helps in improving, right? So we can just remove this. If it helps in improving, then it basically means it improves, right? So remove the ing and say improves. So the Emma's research highlights the importance of cell membrane and improves drug uptake in the cell. Okay. Emma's research does two things. One, it highlights the importance of cell membrane, so verb plus the phrase after it, and improves drug uptake in the cell, right? So this is how you've made it more parallel. Alright, so here we look at another example. Marissa stopped at the grocery store, the bank, and ran to the library. Okay, now there are three elements. One of the important things that we need to understand, and one of the important skills to develop, is to understand where the parallelism starts, because that will determine the kind of sentence we are trying to construct. Okay, so now where does it start here? Marissa, does it start after the? Does it start after stopped? Does it start after Marissa? So that's you need to see where it starts. Okay. So in this sentence, it's starting here. The parallel construction is starting here. Okay. So what did she do? A, she stopped at the grocery store. B, the bank. Okay. So now, it's not really starting here, because you're saying that she stopped at two places, right? So it's not starting here. It's starting here. So she stopped at. So she stopped at the grocery store, the bank. So this is parallel. The grocery store, article followed by a noun, article followed by a noun. These two are parallel. What's happening here? And ran to the library. So it would have been parallel if you did not have this. So she stopped at the grocery store, the bank, and the library, right? So there are three places where she stopped. So that's a parallel construction. But if you have to mention that she ran, if this is very important, right? If this is very important, then you have to make sure that it's written in a different way. So then you say that she stopped at two places and she ran to the third place, right? So you say Marissa stopped at the grocery store and the bank, and she ran to the library. Okay? So there are two simultaneous parallelisms happening over here. Okay, one is there is one parallel construction where she stopped at two places, at the grocery store and at the bank, but then she also did two things. One, she stopped at these two places and then she ran to these two places. So again, it's parallel construction because there's a verb here and there's another verb here, right? So the difference is that we have introduced a conjunction here to say that these two elements are parallel to each other, and then we are introducing another third element. Okay, so if you want to complicate, if you have to mention the word ran, then that is how you can make this parallel. But if you don't want to mention ran, then you can simply say Marissa stopped at the grocery store, the bank, and the library. So if you mention these three things, then it's the construction is parallel. Alright, so we are going to look at a couple of more examples. This week I have to write an essay, do a book report, and a lab. So now I think you might have started understanding how to solve this now. So there are three things that we're talking about. Where does the parallelism begin? This week. So, okay. Alright, so not here, because I have to do three things. So this is where it begins. So what is the first thing? Write an essay. So verb plus article plus noun, right? Do a book report. Perfect. Verb plus article plus noun. So these two are parallel. And a lab. So what's happening here? So this and a lab is missing a verb. So you need to do.